Hungary. Yeah, Charlie, if you have any articles about that, you can definitely send me.
I think we're good. I think we're just about on here.
Enforces slave labor reform.
Okay, we're on. This is Radio Sheridan, live from the historic Rogers Park neighborhood in Chicago. This is the show about whatever the hell we feel like, and on the panel tonight we have
Julie Newman,
Charles Pigozzi,
and yours truly, William Bermudez. All right, so this is effectively going to be the Christmas holiday edition of the show. Hope
happy holidays.
Happy holidays to one and all 0 people listening right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's start off, I guess, with talking about the... I should do a quote of the day. Let me just grab a book. Let's see. Okay, let me just pull up something. Somebody name like a historical figure, and I'll find something.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I have an excellent speech of his that I have used. Yeah, I've used this in teaching before. Hold on. Here we go. Alrighty. Let me find this here. All right. So, this is from April 3rd, 1964, a speech in Cleveland, Ohio. Basically, he is discussing that he's basically discussing 1964 and how it was a very much momentous year for civil rights in general. And we're going to read this quote here. Here we go. If we don't do something real soon, I think you'll have to agree that we're going to be forced either to use the ballot or the bullet. It's one or the other in 1964. It isn't that time is running out, time has run out. 1964 threatens to be the most explosive year America has ever witnessed. The most explosive year. Why? It's also a political year. It's the year when all the white politicians will be back in the so-called Negro community, driving you and me for some votes. The year when all of the white political crooks will be right back in your and my community with their false promises, building up our hopes for a letdown with their trickery and their treachery, with their false promises which they don't intend to keep. As they nourish these dissatisfactions, it can only lead to one thing, an explosion. And now we have the type of black man on the scene in America today who just doesn't intend to turn the other cheek any longer. So basically, he is discussing there how 1964 being an election year, he doesn't feel that although politicians are claiming to be pro-minority and pro-civil rights, he feels that they're only doing that for votes and that they don't really understand properly understand the needs of those communities. So that being said, I think a lot of people a lot of activists in particular have a similar view today. If you look at Black Lives Matter and the types of have of government.
What's happened with Black Lives Matter in the last I don't know, like it seems like they haven't been quite as active in the last maybe few months, year as they were a few years ago.
Yeah, I think you may actually see them start to wrap up a little bit more when it comes to 2020. Yeah. Hold on a second. Are we live right now? It says uploading the archive to the channel. Oh, okay, it's coming back. All right. Yeah, I think we lost a few frames there, I think.
Do you know, have you guys ever heard of Boots Riley?
Boots Riley, that name sounds familiar.
He's a rapper. He's a communist. He did an interview about his latest film, Sorry to Bother You, but he talked about Black Lives Matter, and he said that they're a good thing, but they're not effective because if a white cop kills a person of color, there's nothing that those protests can do beyond getting the voice out there. That if it would be a different story if you had I guess leftists organized enough to shut down an entire city to force like the jury to make a decision to convict this cop, that there's no real teeth to any of those protests.
I mean, I don't think shutting down a city is necessarily the right solution for that. I think,
but that's an
yeah.
effective form of protest. That's how it was. That's in the 1940s when like communists, socialists, and trade unionists were like really strong with their coalition. That's the tactics they used.
I mean, yeah, but in the last few years, I have not heard of, as a result of people like going out and shutting down a city, anything.
Well, they haven't.
Anything effective happening.
That's a point he's made, that that
because, no, but people have gone
not to the extent that it was like back in the 50s or 40s.
Yeah,
When,
we
like,
actually have people going out and
Right.
getting arrested for civil disobedience.
when
well,
like
people still do get arrested for.
not to the extent.
Yeah, perhaps not to
Not-
the extent.
Not to the extent of like the 1960s with the Vietnam War. Like
Yeah, that's true.
there is no like leftist coalition like movement in this country to really organize people, and all the Black Lives Matter protests they don't have any teeth because they can't.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
Like, you know,
A little bit, yeah.
it started off and like it was like, oh, okay, cool, you know. People are like, you know, organizing against the 1% and like trying to stick it to the
Right.
man. But,
Yeah, but there was no defined leadership for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was no like
Talk, no action.
yeah, there was no like concrete action. Like there were the protests, and then after that, pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It-
mean,
it would
just,
be
like,
nice
splintered off and they kind of
if
Facebook groups or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
someone could unionize like what's that sect called? If someone could unionize, because I guess the biggest issue is that people's thought of what the working class is like tool and die makers, construction workers, but that's not. Like working class is the service industry,
Yeah, it's
which
service
is not
industry. Yeah.
unionized. If
No,
people
it's
could unionize the
for the
service
most part,
industry,
it's not.
then you can effectively shut down Chicago.
Yeah. You can announce, like, for example, a general work stoppage. All the unions.
Well, we could see like, I would, you know, I'm not like saying I have like anything necessarily against like people going out in cities and like protesting, but I just, you know, what might have been effective tactics in the 30s through 50s could possibly not, at least
Well,
as far as I've seen,
That's a
work in the
false.
same way.
That's a false equivalence because those tactics aren't even being tried now because the organizations in place back then don't exist today. That there is no infrastructure in place for, like, say, all the trade unions in Chicago to come together, say, okay, we're shutting down the city.
Yeah, like
That-
the unions in Chicago to a great extent are fragmented.
Right.
Yeah.
That there's no teeth to any.
Yeah, no, it's true. In Wisconsin, in the last like 8 years or so, there's just been a total fight from the GOP and Scott Walker to. Oh yeah, this is another thing we could talk about. The total fight from the GOP to just like get rid of any strength that unions could possibly have with the right to work laws. And actually, what happened I know for a fact they did this in Wisconsin, and it was on the table at least in Michigan. I don't know whether it went through or not, but they're talking about getting like lessening, like not mitigating, but like lessening the powers that governor and I think Secretary of State would have.
Yeah.
Because literally the only reason was because a Democrat got elected.
Yeah, trying to do some lame duck legislation to do that. Yeah, it's fucked. Wow. All right. Yeah, speaking of legislation, let's talk a little bit about, I guess, about the budget now and how there may very well be a government shutdown over a monument to anti-immigration hysteria.
Yeah.
So basically, I believe Trump was presented with a full budget that he rejected because he didn't have funding for the wall. And
yeah, that was earlier today, right?
does actually, if it turns out that we won't be able to hear much of it, then I will just replace on the stream the audio file with the one we have here. So
yeah,
let's do that.
It just looks like Trump is just being stubborn. And
Yeah, that's Trump being Trump in a lot of senses.
I mean, in terms of like American history, well, okay, if Trump hypothetically got his wall, it wouldn't be as bad as the Trail of Tears, but it would probably really put a bad stain
it's
in
not
this
gonna
country's.
happen. It's
Right.
literally impossible. Like, are you gonna
Okay.
build a wall through like rivers and
Right.
deserts? And
I guess have there ever been
What is he
any?
fucking thinking?
Well,
And like you know,
what does this to? Well, okay, that's difficult to.
the media, like they report on what he says instead of criticizing the absurdity
Right.
of
Yeah.
like these.
They 90% of the coverage of
Harebrained
what
ideas.
of Trump is 90% is what he says and 10% is I
Yeah.
believe so, or at least a brief
Like-
one.
Yeah.
The one I remember very well was in 2013.
Oh, that's
And-
high school. No.
I was in
yeah.
college, 2013.
Yeah.
And I remember it very well because the Library of Congress website was shut down and I was doing a research project
Oh,
in class with a lot of
God.
people. I wasn't using it myself because my project was based on Chicago history. Anybody that was doing American history was fucked for about 2 weeks on research because they literally could not look up any Library of Congress stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Shit.
My God.
I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Too. Like, when the government.
I know, like Pelosi and others have said that's what they plan on going. That's like their top priority when it comes to holding Trump accountable is getting his tax returns.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Yeah.
See if he actually. There, God, that random rumor. I forget who started it. That he that like supposedly Trump's been donating to NAMBLA. I mean, it's false. Like, there's no way he is. But like, that actually like supposedly people have said
funny.
like he's like it's like one of those rumors. It's like so ridiculous. It's obviously not true. But if you
Yeah.
say it enough, people might start to think it is.
Well, the border wall is pretty ridiculous.
I mean, it is.
That's not a rumor, though.
It's not a rumor.
That's like. Yeah.
That's established policy, or yeah, at least in a position of his.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to talk about regarding the wall or?
Wouldn't Mexico have to agree to it? It's not like Americans can just say we're building this wall. Wouldn't Mexico get pissed off and say no?
Well, if all of the wall is like just on the American side, Mexico doesn't really have a say.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, one thing is like when you considering the Rio Grande, that's going to be interesting, like how that plays into it because, well, you can't really build a wall on a river,
Yeah,
so
it's like hundreds of
yeah.
miles of river.
I mean, if it's and depending on how it's built, you might end up just having the entire river on the Mexican side, and that's not really going to be advantageous
Right.
to America.
I think it's a really big. The whole ordeal is a big hypocrisy that our government there are people in Congress more focused on building a wall rather than funding like roads, bridges.
Yeah.
I think Mexico has other things that
Like-
they're worried about, probably,
Right.
other than the U.S. building a wall.
Probably.
Anyways, like,
Yeah. They probably just are just like they're probably just looking at us thinking, okay, you have your fun building your wall. We're gonna focus on actually helping our citizens
Right.
yeah,
as opposed to
stopping the drug wars and
yeah.
whatnot.
I mean, that's how people are. Some people are spinning the wall, saying it's gonna like stop a lot of illegal drugs coming in, but
Well, they find their way in other
they
ways
do.
too. Like,
they
What
do.
isn't the biggest issue going out? Because
What?
I thought the notion that there's too many people entering the country is wrong. That it's actually people trying to leave. Because generally how it works is people come to this country, they get their degree, they work, then they go back.
Yeah, like the reason, like as opposed to people crossing the border, that's not the issue. Like more people overstay their work visas, and that's how they go from becoming migrants on a work visa to supposedly becoming undocumented or
Right.
illegal. There's actually.
I mean, there are some people who just like straight up cross the border.
Yeah, there are some people who do
Right.
that. Yeah. Let me look up something here. There's actually a conservative commentator by the name of Grover Norquist, and he actually, unlike most conservative, actually believes that there should be more people. There should actually be a higher immigration rate than there currently is. I believe his argument on this is like a larger workforce.
Yeah.
Let me.
Well, yeah, I mean, the
That's
jobs
interesting.
that immigrants take, Americans aren't landscaping. They're not the ones working in the service industry. They're not
picking fruit.
right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I even heard the arguments, and I want to be clear, I don't agree with this. Is that not only should the border be open, but there should be a separate like minimum wage lower for non-citizens. I've actually heard that argument being made that like if you're not a citizen, you should be able to be hired by a company but work for less money.
It's exploitation.
It is
Yeah.
exploitation, yeah.
it's wage theft.
Bad.
It is bad. And you'll create like a specific like almost a permanent underclass
Yeah.
by doing so.
Oh boy.
Yep. Crazy. All right. So that's probably by the next time we broadcast, we'll know whether there is going to be a shutdown. So
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
see just exactly how
cover an update
long that's
on
going to
that.
be.
I wonder what Germans will think of America.
Germans.
I'm gonna go in Germany. Like,
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Are
years
you
for a
in
week.
Germany? That's right.
Yeah, you could like ask people.
Yeah.
They're like, yo.
You'd be
I
like,
mean,
your
they-
country's fucked up, man.
I mean, they might just like roast Trump. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I have a friend, actually, Noah. I like talk with him every now and again. And he was like saying he's living in the Netherlands right
Yeah.
now, and he was saying like he did his like mail-in ballot thing or whatever, and his postman got a lot happier like once he found out that like Noah was a Democrat and didn't
Wow.
vote for Trump and all that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like any American going abroad, like they're gonna have to answer for Trump quite a lot.
In Kazakhstan, I did not have to answer for Trump because like he was not he wasn't like an everyday topic to like talk about Trump. Like you know, occasionally I would like see it like come up on the news or whatever, but you know, it wasn't like I fly in and the first thing like I guess like people are asking me about Trump. Like it wasn't, because for like Kazakh people, it's like not really that big of a deal for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it would be.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, yeah, like, why care? It's not like they're president.
Well, I mean, there is some like foreign policy stuff. Like the U.S. and Kazakhstan do have a relationship, and there's some like military and like oil strategy. So it's not a complete like disconnect between the countries, but like
I see.
it's not not as big of an issue. It's like, you know, something between the U.S. and Mexico.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of like perception of Europe and like in terms of how their own political situation is going, let's talk about the Yellow Vests a little bit. So the protests that are currently going on mainly in France about, I believe it is about the high taxation, specifically gas taxes, that are making it like even on like a basic living wage, like one cannot afford to pay these taxes, and there's essentially a popular revolt going on. And I found out the reason why they all wear yellow vests is because in France there's a law you have to have in your car, like a certain like emergency preparedness stuff, including a yellow like a high vision vest. So that's that's why like so many people were able to get them so quickly, because they all have them on hand if they drive a car.
Nice.
Yep. So and apparently like the actual protests have been taking kind of a different turn lately. It's become more of a nationalist, populist sort of thing. Among people protesting.
Yeah,
you guys have probably been following that more than I have.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I remember you were telling us about you were mentioning this, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, even the photos, like you'll just see people waving French flags.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's just more of a populist. I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, someone waving a French flag, I don't think that necessarily.
Right, but I mean the
equates to
connotation that has,
nationalism.
you're not seeing like red flags and like workers of the world unite. You're not seeing like internationalist type rhetoric and caricatures in those protests.
Yeah.
Because that's what would be the better option, is that leftists could take control and say, look, the enemy is not the minority. The enemy is Macron and his policies and how he's Macron.
Sorry.
How his neoliberal policies have done real harm to the French economy, like how his government lowered taxes on the rich.
Yeah. No, I was.
And
I heard about that tax thing. I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not very hopeful that I'm not hopeful that like the French Communist Party or Socialist Party can like use it for any kind of momentum.
Well, does the French Communist Socialist Party have very much influence to begin with?
Well, no, they have seats in parliament.
Oh, really?
But
Well,
it's
that's
just
more than the U.S.
They're just not organized, and they're not taking the protests as seriously as they should. If they did, they would stamp out like the right-wing fascists, but it's kind of too late now.
Right. And I found this article from Newsweek. Police are actually threatening to join the protesters.
How long ago was this article?
This was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. And apparently, I guess, basically, I guess police have actually accumulated in total 23 million hours of overtime that have yet to be paid.
Country, it does not seem like that much either.
Especially when it's probably going to get taxed anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there's also another danger. It's just when cops are joining the protesters, it's like, I mean, that has some negative consequences.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
if we think about like if cops, let's say if this was happening here, like if cops to us were doing that, then that would be problematic. I think like it depends on
Right.
how cops are seen in Europe compared to here.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, like these police officers most likely aren't armed. Like, I
Right.
don't think they're armed
Yeah.
in France at least.
I know.
Maybe not with guns.
Not with guns, yeah.
If America ever, if the scenario ever happened that we would have those mass protests in Chicago, I know all of the left-leaning groups would say, like, if you're a cop, stay home, go home. We do not want you a part of this.
Well, I mean, I don't think like most cops in the U.S. would probably join.
Right.
Join
No,
protests.
cops.
In
They're reactionary. Like they
in
would
in
be a
uniform,
reactionary force.
Absolutely not. Yeah, even cops, I think, who are not in uniforms would
Yeah.
probably not.
Even the military
Yeah.
would be a reactionary force for any kind of revolution in the
Right.
United States.
I mean, depending on who, if that were to happen in Chicago, depending on who was mayor, they'd probably just call out the Illinois National Guard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the that's going to be the end game for any major political
Yeah.
protests. Like if
Also-
there's a repeat of like the '68 DNC, that would probably happen again.
You want to talk about militarization of police? There's a lot of police departments across the country that have purchased or somehow otherwise acquired military
Yeah.
equipment. Like they have,
Yeah.
like cars and guns that should probably only
Yep.
ever be used in wars and not against civilians.
Yeah.
That doesn't have fascist undertones at all.
Oh, of course not. We're not creating a police state by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really like imagine if police did not have guns in this country or in cities like Chicago.
I think they need. I hate
Yeah.
to say it, but I think police in the U.S. do need.
I
to have
agree.
guns.
Well, I mean that can also change too, because the whole reason you have cops, it's the assertion that you need a rule of law. But if you have societies that are fully democratic, and you say you have like workers' councils, or society takes a role in securing their own neighborhood instead of having an employee of the state.
I don't think that's viable on a U.S. scale. It might be viable,
Right, but
if,
I mean
like, a few
philosophically.
people-
Philosophically,
Having an armed person who works for the state is reactionary, because they don't represent the community.
I
If
don't
that
know.
person
I
was
think cops do represent the community to some
Not-
degree. Like, I don't.
not a democratic process, if they were elected by, say, a council,
Well, we
of-
do elect our police chiefs.
not everywhere in the United States.
Really?
If it would be more of a democratic process if every single officer was elected by a.
That's absurd.
every single. You mean?
But if you're being theoretically.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Like put like 50,000 the names of like 50,000 officers on like in a ballot? Like
I mean, it's
what?
different than like electing judges or something, because like if you're gonna like elect every single patrolman to office, like that's gonna be infeasible, just for like, especially for large departments like
Yeah,
Chicago.
no, that's absurd.
Unless you're talking about like specific, like each district picks their own or something.
Yeah.
But even so,
Well,
But if
Yeah, I don't
you
know.
foster the conditions that would not require that amount of cops, if you foster neighborhood, if you create the conditions necessary where cops are not needed.
well, the conditions necessary where cops would not needed. If you want to talk about this, we could think about Singapore, which is a country with very brutal martial law, where I've heard people say online, like in Singapore, like there are police, but the real policemen's in people's heads. And that's
I'm not
that's
talking-
sort of the kind of condition that you would need for there not to
Well,
be.
I'm not talking in the
cops
context of like right wing. I'm talking more in the context of the type of worker councils that Karl Marx envisions that he lays out in the Communist Manifesto, a socialist society, workers' councils take control, and you have these co-ops, communes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, like that could.
Right. Philosophically, though, this is all.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's
philosophically,
right now, at least, it's not feasible.
Yeah, in like a perfectly democratic society, we choose all of our leaders,
Right.
or well, rather, we are the leaders in a democratic society.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if we've talked about this, but just the system, the delegate system, or what's it called? The
Electoral
Caucus.
college.
Yeah, the electoral college is such a bullshit system.
It's outdated. It's no longer. It's outdated. That's basically what it comes down to.
Like, yeah,
It's
it
designed-
might have made
it's-
sense in the 18th
Yeah,
century.
it's designed for a country that only has maybe at most about 10 million people.
Damn.
Yeah, with like a very centralized. It's like that's very centralized along a particular area as opposed to being as spread out as we are now.
Yeah, I mean, why should someone in Wyoming's vote count 10
Right.
times more than someone in California's? It's not fair.
Yeah, there's a and like to fully get rid of the electoral college, you would need a constitutional amendment. But there is, let me see if I can
Oh,
find
that's
this
not
here.
happening.
Yeah, there is something called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which is basically an agreement among certain U.S. states to electoral votes to whichever presidential candidate wins the overall popular vote. So the way it normally works now, basically the way it normally works now is that if in most states, this is there are a couple states where this isn't the case and they split the electoral votes, but in most states, whoever wins the popular vote in that state gets all the electoral votes.
Okay.
But there are several states. Let me see. How
It
many?
looks like right now it's not very popular.
It's not. There's only 11 states currently, plus the District
and
of Columbia.
these are like all states that have a lot of delegates.
Yeah. Basically,
Most of them, at least.
yeah. Between let's see if I can find this here. Okay, so there are a few states where it has been enacted into law, and it represents 172 electoral votes, or 32% of the whole count. And there are a few other states where it's currently pending in legislative session, so they haven't joined yet, but they are discussing it. And that's an additional 69 votes. So basically, if you count those two together, a total of 45% of electoral votes would go to the would fall under this compact.
Does there need to be like in order to pass this? Wouldn't it need to be like 60, like 2/3 of states or something, or was it?
It would need to be, well,
3/4?
I believe.
Would it be ratified, like prohibition?
Are you referring to like a constitutional amendment?
Yeah.
Then I believe would be three-quarters of the states,
Okay.
the state legislatures.
Yeah.
So 38 state legislatures would need to agree.
So is that what happened to what? Is that similar? How is that include primaries where in West Virginia Bernie won all the delegates, but when Hillary won the primary, she was automatically given all of the.
I believe this only relates to the general election.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right to mention that because like if you think of, I mean the fact that like under the Constitution, states are the ones operating their own elections. So like this isn't like a national like law or anything. This has to do specifically with what West Virginia did, and it's not like any national law.
Also, why should states be winner take all if there's districts that
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would ever. I don't think like the electoral college is ever going to get removed by constitutional amendment because I don't think
see it happening.
No, you're not going to
soon.
find that many states that are willing to give up that much electoral power. I don't think.
Like all those states in the
The Rocky Mountain
West.
states,
Yeah,
the ones that have very few people living there but still have a disproportionate effect on the elections.
Because some people still cattle ranching's still a thing. Like there's people use that
there are
land
people that
up.
actually use that for their own profit.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. I think there's some guy in one of those states, it's like Montana or something, who owns
some
just
asshole
an
that owns a bunch of
obscene
land.
amount of land. Yeah. But
Wow. I mean the electoral college is mainly a holdover from the recent post-constitutional era, the late 18th, early 19th century, back when there were fewer states, and most of this part of the continent west of the Mississippi. Yeah, that's right. West of the Mississippi was Native American territory, who weren't really voting anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about that.
I guess my question is that, is there any other way besides an amendment to abolish electoral college,
I think you can through
are the
Congress.
are state laws regarding voting so old and just so different state to state? There's no way to make it more efficient.
I think you can through Congress somehow. I mean, William, you can correct me on that. But there's some.
Or are there just so much intertwining?
Well, the electoral college specifically is mentioned in is discussed in the Constitution. So to get rid of that actual electoral college itself would require an amendment. But depending on how the states run their own elections, like with this compact and other ways, it's possible to weaken its stranglehold on the elections.
Okay.
If that's what you're wondering. Let's go on Drudge and see if there's anything interesting there.
Oh, any new news on what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Oh yeah, let's look that up. We did mention that on the last show, Neil deGrasse Tyson's allegations. Let's see. What's this? Okay. Yeah, there was an article in Forbes. This is last week. This is a few days after we did our last show.
Oh.
And apparently, yeah, it's about how sexual misconduct allegations could cost Neil deGrasse Tyson millions because it's going to put a lot of his it's going to put his TV shows and his book deals in jeopardy. It's going to post. Apparently, it's going to. Okay, so that's interesting. As of this writing, which was about a week and a half ago, Cosmos was still scheduled. His show on Fox was still scheduled to air this spring. But and the producer said the credo at the heart of Cosmos is to follow the evidence wherever it leads. The producers of Cosmos can do no less in this situation. So I think they're going to basically just see how this progresses. And I assume that what they're going to do is just get another host if it does turn out that that they're not going to be able to have him on the show anymore.
I wonder if they would promote Bill Nye.
Perhaps. Who knows? Yeah, I haven't there really hasn't been a whole lot of other news with regards to that.
I just don't think it's heated. It's not like, well, I don't know. Do you think is it given less attention than say like if it was Bill Cosby? Well, Bill Cosby's different because a lot of celebrities knew what he was doing.
A lot of celebrities knew what he was doing, and also Bill Cosby, I think, was looked in the black community as more of a higher figure than Neil deGrasse Tyson is. So because he was very much a philanthropist. He was promoting.
Also
education.
different eras too.
Yeah.
Different eras as well. Yeah. One thing I do want to talk about is the London's Gatwick Airport, the drone situation there.
Someone posted here. I'll send this. One of my friends sent me a really funny meme about that earlier.
All right.
Sends me stupid meme. Here we go.
Can't believe they shut down the whole airport.
Yeah.
It's probably the smart thing to do.
That makes sense, I think. Yeah.
God, I would be so pissed off.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'd be fucking. Yeah, yo, scope this meme. It's pretty funny.
1 second.
Wow, Facebook looks a lot different on your guys' laptops.
Yeah.
I think it's because I have an older laptop.
Probably. Let's see.
Maybe.
Oh, I see. They did a Wikipedia style war overview of it.
I saw another one of those where it was some crazy Russian guy who went to Mexico and
You have Gatwick Airport security, Sussex Police, British Army and government versus one droney boy. And the casualties on for the former were 110,000 travelers, 800 flights, Sandra's Winter Sun, Christmas Spirit, National Pride, and the drone's loss was an afternoon off of work.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Speaking of things that can shut off, that can hamper air traffic. Lasers are another big thing. How it's actually illegal to point a laser at an airplane because that can fuck with the pilot's view.
Really?
Yeah, it's true.
It's
Anywhere on the airplane?
If you let's say you're on the ground. Well, it's not on the airplane. If you're on the ground and you see an airplane above, and you point a laser at it.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah.
That small laser fucks up.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially if it's a powerful, especially a green or a blue laser, just because they're so powerful and they can actually cause a strobe effect within the cabin. They can really mess up to the point where the pilot can't even see anything.
I have a funny story about that. Yeah. So freshman year, I was living in the dorms and I had a friend who was on the 8th floor of the dorms, and there was some high-rise apartments across the street from us, and we would always shine a laser into one particular room. And then after a while, they started shining the laser back. So we had basically just laser wars with these guys in whatever this apartment was. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. More about the drones thing. This is just a quick article from AP. I guess 20 police units from 2 forces tried to find the drone operator after the first sighting, but it was too risky to shoot down the drones because the stray bullets might have killed somebody.
Well, that's smart. I mean, if it was
It's so
Texas,
funny.
they'd probably shoot.
But wouldn't they like have like nets or something like that, or they could like
Or like
catch the-
demagnetize it or something. I don't know.
you would think like there's
Yeah.
more creative
Oh.
solutions.
Yeah.
Apparently, see, the airport itself is about 30 miles south of London, and they get about like there were supposed to have been about 110,000 passengers going through, and
I don't think- No, sorry, go ahead.
apparently the chief executive of the airport said that the intrusion was calculated to cause quote maximum disruption just before Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounds like some pretty serious
Al
trolling.
Qaeda's steep's pretty low.
Al Qaeda?
I don't think it's Al Qaeda.
It's not. It's not Al
It's
Qaeda.
probably
Is that
just
a
some
thing?
Asshole.
Is Al Qaeda
troll.
still a thing?
Yeah. Well, we
Are
can look into
they
that.
like dead?
Let's see. I do know
That
that
guy
Trump
still
said that they're
exists.
going to. Trump is
They're
declaring.
pulling out of Syria.
Trump's pulling out of Syria and declaring victory over ISIS.
Uh,
But
Yeah,
let's see.
fucking
I don't
right.
disagree with that. Syria was a mistake.
I mean, it was a mistake to
Well,
get
We
involved.
should not
yes.
get involved in that.
I mean, we made the mistakes like 18 years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Libya
Um,
was a fucking mistake.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
yeah.
slave state now. They have slavery in Libya right now.
They do in Mauritania also.
Like-
So technically, Al Qaeda is actually.
Crazy North Africans.
Yeah.
Yeah, Al Qaeda technically still is involved, and they're actually involved in the Yemen civil war currently.
Oh.
Yeah, and the war in
Fun.
Somalia, and the war in Afghanistan.
Mm.
Yeah. So they technically still exist, although like the coverage of it has been sort of superseded by coverage of ISIS.
And the coverage of Russian spies, guys.
Yeah.
It's so
why?
ridiculous.
I guess. This is kind of off topic, but the whole like, what's your opinions on RussiaGate? Being.
I mean, like,
Good.
okay, I'll put it this way. Russia, there are people in Russia that seek to influence the West by writing bullshit comments and like garbage and whatever. But it did not, this is just my personal opinion. This is like not a fact one or another. But I do not believe that it had the sort of influence that would warrant the kind of attention it's been getting from every single mainstream media outlet in this country. And when I say mainstream media, I don't mean like mainstream media in the way that like someone on Breitbart or Fox would say. I include them. Like it's like it's all
The
sides
media
of
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. There was some.
It's just it's way overblown. I was just talking about this with a friend the other day.
Oh, by the way, apparently, is this right? Hold on. I just pulled up our politics. Apparently, James Mattis is quitting.
Yeah. I think that was
Yeah, that's
Syria
earlier
Syria was the last
Yeah.
straw. He was like, if you pull out of Syria, I'm fucking quitting.
Yeah, apparently, he doesn't agree with Trump on certain things.
Okay, so here's it's not just me saying this. There's a guy named Nate Silver.
Oh,
who does-
538.
Yeah, he works for 538, and he does a lot of statistics work with like, for sports or election predictions or like whatever kind of statistics. He's a real like statistical genius or whatever. And he basically this past week said that like, I'm just reading from the Daily Wire. Nate Silver dismantles Russian disinformation stole the election narrative in a tweet.
Yeah.
So like this big this is not just me saying this, like this big statistics guy is saying like it's overblown. Like
Well, Chris Hedges wrote about it too. He said that the whole reason Democrats are keep talking about it is that instead of doing that, it's if they were to admit that Hillary lost the election because she was a shitty politician,
well, it's
would be
easy.
admitting the Democratic Party needs reform.
It's just a scapegoat.
Yeah, it's a scapegoat from Democrats reforming.
And from Republicans talking about like how terrible the President Trump
Yeah,
is.
I found Mattis's resignation letter. By the way,
Okay.
there's a couple parts of it. Let me see if I can find this part someone had mentioned. Okay, so here we go. My views on treating allies. This is just a couple paragraphs in it. My views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues. We must do everything possible to advance an international order that is most conducive to our security, prosperity, and values, and we are strengthened in this effort by the solidarity of our alliances. Because you have the right to a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours on these and other subjects, I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. The end date for my tenure is February 20th, 2019, and it goes on from there. So he actually he's specifically criticizing how Trump is going after our traditional allies about certain issues like that. He's going against Trump's apparently because Trump's saying very much against certain countries in Europe in particular that have been supportive of the United States, so specifically, and also Canada as well.
Yeah.
And he's siding. It says supposedly siding with U.S. adversaries over his own officials in his own government.
Well, Trump he does whatever is most convenient for him.
He's a populist.
Yeah.
Because his criticisms of NATO are one of the few criticisms that are valid is his thing on NATO. Me personally, I disagree with NATO because its intention is.
I don't disagree with NATO.
I don't really, in most cases.
I mean, on principle, I think it's NATO, it was created for good reason.
Yeah, it was when it was created, it made sense to help to make sure that World War III wouldn't happen right after World War II ended.
But it's really biased towards Western Europe's interests. That
was how it was
most
developed in the first place.
Most of the countries that are in it are Western European. Not all, but many of them are. Yeah. In its inception, with its inception, all of them were, and to this day, most of them are. And most of the countries that aren't Western European that are in it now, like Bulgaria and I think Macedonia is trying to join it. They're trying to sort of move more towards the West and towards Europe.
Yeah, they want to align themselves with those countries.
Yeah.
The only reason the main reason to disagree with NATO is that because of the United States obligation to get involved in conflicts in those countries, in military conflicts.
Libya was NATO got involved in Libya, and that's a mistake. That the kind of carelessness of United States foreign policy of getting involved in every single conflict
and being the world's police.
Right.
Yeah. No, I totally resent the fact that that's the role that the U.S. has taken on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how we have spent, trillions of dollars acting as the world's police, and in doing so destabilizing nations around the world and putting in tyrants as leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading through the comments on our politics. It's our politics is is left
terrible.
anyway, but it's fun to look at what people are saying on here. Somebody said, let's see.
It's not Stalin's socialist meme house.
Someone said 2019 is going to be a clusterfuck of a year. Let's see. That's where I got some of these quotes here. It says, I wonder if Mattis knows this yet, but it actually was Mattis resigning. It wasn't a firing. Someone said this country just got more unsafe, which is an interesting point to raise. Who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense?
Probably 3 people will get nominated and decline, and then.
Oh yeah, what's happening with Chief of Staff? How Chris Christie was offered the job and declined it.
Well, why would you offer Chris Christie?
Which is the fact that people are declining the job is telling, because in any other administration
Republicans are declining the jobs.
Yeah, Republicans in other administration, chief of staff is the job that will jumpstart your political career and essentially ensure that you will become a career politician making millions of dollars throughout your life.
Not in the Trump administration.
Not in the Trump administration. Now people are realizing that this is the golden tickets to a subpoena.
Yeah, a lot of people I remember right after Trump took, even within a few months, a lot of people who were supporting him initially just totally jumped ship because they realized what a shit show was.
How many are left?
I don't know.
How many people of his supporters?
Yeah,
or how many people?
How many left? How many?
I mean, people in his administration.
Yeah, how many
in administration.
That's a good question.
That's good. People that have actually stuck on since the beginning. I'm not sure.
You look that up.
Look up longest tenured members of Trump's administration.
Mike Pence.
Well, I don't know the longest tenure, but percentage of people that have
percentage of Trump's.
Because if you leave secretary positions open, that's not good.
No, it's not, and there's a lot of government positions outside of just his cabinet that have been not filled.
Yeah. It was actually, I'm not really finding anything from here in terms of this. Let me see. Let me just look up Trump's administration and see what we can find in terms of who's been there for how long. Let's see here. Yeah, because any list I find will probably say how long each person's been there. Let's see. Let's see. I guess under presidency of Donald Trump. Yeah, we're just looking for this right now. I wonder who's gonna actually get out of this unscathed.
Pence.
Well, I don't know.
Pence a weirdo.
Pence is like. Pence seems like he's trying to distance himself in a lot of ways from some of the things. He's remaining very quiet about certain things.
Also, I don't think we talked about this. This must have been like before. This was in the last week. The meeting between Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Trump, and then
is that the one where Mike was like, this looked like she was dozing off throughout the whole thing?
He's just like sitting there smiling. He like didn't say a single fucking thing. Like,
yeah. Oh, here's personnel. Okay.
It's creepy.
Let's see. Oh, I see this. Okay, so there are some people that have been there from 2017 to the present. Specifically, let's see, Mnuchin's still in there. Mnuchin's still in there. I'm trying to see who else notables. Alexander Acosta, Secretary of Labor, has been there since 2017. Betsy DeVos, Ben Carson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a handful that have been there throughout the long term.
Is Priebus still?
No, Priebus was the original chief of staff.
Okay.
And he was there from January 20. He was there from the inauguration till July of last year.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
A lot of turnover.
Yep. He apparently. Oh yeah. Apparently, Priebus had the shortest tenure of any non-interim chief of staff in American history. Although, to be fair, chief of staff as a position has only existed, I believe, was it Truman that started it, I think?
It's still a while.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it is a while. It was. It began apparently in 1946 because like Truman was like pretty new to federal politics overall. He had just been chosen as vice president when
Henry Wallace should have been.
Perhaps. When FDR was nominated in 44, like Truman was pretty new to politics in general, so I felt he needed somebody on his staff to sort of oversee things. And it was apparently formalized. It was originally called assistant to the president, and I guess the actual formal role is assistant to the president and chief of staff. So that's how that originated. But yeah, Priebus is the shortest lasting chief of staff.
So do you think Trump will leave the White House in cuffs?
I don't know. I do not know.
It's too early to tell.
Yeah, that's.
Well, we'll see what the Mueller investigation turns up.
Yeah.
That's already like Michael Cohen's going to jail and.
Wow. Yeah, that was kind of astonishing to hear that.
So Manafort. Yeah, Manafort's in jail too.
Right. Let's see. What else were we going to talk about? Let's see. We talked about the.
We'll talk about local stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, we have is a woman who was murdered. I think probably this is like a few months ago, but her family's offering a higher reward.
Yeah, she was apparently dismembered.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this article. Okay, so it was an elderly woman, Thana Muhammad.
81 years old.
81 years old. In Rosemore. Where is Rosemore? That is, I want to say that's
on the south side.
Yeah, I want to say that's like the far south side. Rosemore in Chicago. Oh yeah, okay, it's near Roseland. Okay, so this is like near Chicago State, kind of, is where this happened. So yeah, so this is a I guess the reward has increased to I believe it was $30,000. Yeah, I'm gonna just look up this article here. Okay, yeah, this is from CBS. There we go. Oh, apparently she was the sister of a former alderman, and had a brother who was a Chicago police lieutenant, so someone very well connected here. 100th and Forest. Okay, yeah, I know. I like in general around that is.
Pretty far south.
Yeah, and apparently her body was found inside the house, and her car was discovered on the west side near Pocono Division. Apparently, she had previously lived in that area.
Weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so the reward has been increased, and I believe the actual murder happened in July.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Okay. Another thing we want to talk about is we can just touch on this briefly. I think like most local news has touched on this. There were two cops that were killed by I believe it was a South Shore Line train.
That's a Metro train.
Yeah, Metro on the South Shore Line was there were two cops that were killed. Apparently, from what I understand, let me see if I can find about this. Apparently, they were responding to gunshots. Yeah, there's a Tribune article. Apparently, the cops were killed by a train. Were answering a call of shots fired, and according to this article, the suspect was apparently just quote testing a gun that he found. He said, "I found the gun in the alley on 101st and Vernon. And I was just testing it out." So apparently, that's like what they were responding to. Yeah, that's. I feel bad for the guy who was testing the gun in a sense because like he's gonna be
bad for him. He's testing a gun out in public.
Yeah, but like he's gonna.
Dumbass.
I mean, yeah, it was a dumb thing to do, but he's gonna be seen as like the guy who was responsible for getting these cops.
Yeah,
killed.
I feel bad that that's.
That's why I feel
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like he shouldn't have been doing it. He should have known better than
Right.
to test a random gun he saw on the street. But like, yeah, that's.
Or if you're just gonna test, like, do it in your basement or something.
In your
I don't
basement,
know.
somewhere not in public where someone's gonna hear it and call a cops to check it out or something.
And then the last piece of local news I think we talked about, or we're gonna talk about, was the L-Track suicide.
Oh yeah, this was this Tuesday or when was this?
Yeah, the dude was 23.
Ooh.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was that young.
Committed
Yeah,
suicide.
this would have been about 8 a.m. the other day. A guy essentially jumped on the L tracks at Belmont and got hit by a train and killed himself.
Oh.
And this happened during pretty much during rush hour, and as a result, a lot of the trains were backed up for I believe about an hour and a half. I happened to be there about a half hour before that happened. I was going to be subbing over at Steinmetz that day. I took the train over, and I was actually reading on Reddit on the bus going west. Like the people were saying, like I'm at Belmont right now. Everything is shut down. There were like all the trains are backed up, and people are having to get off in masses.
Damn.
Yeah, nuts. And apparently, somebody it's like some people were commenting like they're on that train, and like when they found out what happened, people were just like bursting into tears because like that's like such like a shocking thing to have happen. Like if you're on a train that hits somebody,
Yeah.
pretty crazy. Man.
I would not want to be. I wonder like what the L driver feels.
Oh god,
I can't
even
imagine like
man.
going to sleep
Jesus.
thinking like, oh, if only I stopped sooner. Like,
Yeah, that would fuck with
Well,
anybody.
And that's the thing. Like, whenever someone commits suicide, like it's almost never the train conductor's fault or the
No, it's
engineer's
not.
fault.
If you're going that fast, you can't stop
nothing.
that.
Yeah, there's no possible way.
There's a green text, and I hate it's almost in bad taste to bring this up, but there is a green text about a guy who is like a train conductor or train operator, I should say, and basically he discusses like it's kind of like an elaborate version of like how he feels whenever he's on a train and he hits somebody. He has like very interesting description of it. I can't find it on here, but
Yeah, I don't know about reading.
I wasn't gonna read the whole thing, but yeah, he sees like almost like a very interesting description of how he sees them like go into the next life and sorts of things. It's
God.
very odd how he described that.
Jesus,
still like 23 though. That's
It's young.
so young.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. What else? Should we discuss anything else? We've been on for about an hour, I think. Let's see what I'm trying to think like what else has happened recently in the news. Maybe I can just check our news really quick.
oh, I was looking at. I'm planning on moving out this summer,
Oh yeah.
and there are a couple places in Ravenswood that look nice. For fun, I looked like cheapest places in Gary, Indiana. You can rent
you do
a
not wanna live in
four.
Gary,
I know,
Indiana.
but you can rent a 4-bedroom house in Gary, Indiana for $400 a month.
Okay.
Barely
But-
not have running.
Oh wait. Oh, it's coming in and out now.
Mm.
Let's see, because there was one article. It basically had. Oh, here it is. Elon Musk provides $423,000 to buy laptops for Flint middle schoolers.
So they can browse the internet while they drink that dirty ass water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's fucking crazy.
He's
He's like, he's gonna go to Mars. It's like, dude,
fine, go. We don't want
you're
to see you
a
anymore.
fucking nutcase.
Yeah.
He said like nobody ever accomplished anything working 40 hours a week.
Yeah, meanwhile you don't allow your workers to unionize.
Yeah.
The thing about that, you know, I'm not like completely defending him, but like he doesn't just he does like walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Like
Yeah.
he backs up.
He's still fucking like.
Yeah, I know.
Nuts.
He's
He's a
crazy.
nutcase.
But,
Yeah,
like,
he's nuts. Oh yeah, and he was he lit up on Joe Rogan and was immensely criticized for it.
That's such a I see that picture get posted all the time. It's just, like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, his
Smoking
factory plant workers get fired. Like one of them got fired for failing a drug test.
oh.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he
The
just.
hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's true. That's ridiculous. Oh my god.
He did one tweet. He said like Karl Marx liked capitalism. He wrote a whole book about it. He said, I'm a socialist, but not the traditional one. I'm like, he got ripped apart. The Socialist Party USA publicly stated, like, Elon Musk, you're not a socialist. Fuck off.
He also like tweets some tweet about like anime cat girls or something. Like I don't even know.
I'm gonna go on his Twitter right now. Let's see if we can. I'm just gonna scroll and see if we can find anything. What the hell? Join our underground movement. He just posted that randomly.
What?
I assume he was referring to like the subways he wants to build and stuff.
Oh.
This is
The Boring Company.
the Boring Company. Yeah.
Yeah, actually that's another piece of news. They opened like a tunnel underneath, I think, some LA suburb.
Privatizing would mean that private companies maintain our infrastructure. Like Comcast owns interstate highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the difference between, in terms of education, like having a charter school and having like independent like nonprofits running extracurriculars within a public school.
Yeah.
How like they don't like, they're not managing a school, they're just managing like a small part that's like somewhat independent from the rest of how the school is managed.
Oh. I mean, like if Tesla wants to build like a rail system for, say, like a shopping mall, like that's cool.
Yeah, because like the shopping mall is itself
Right.
privatized.
Yeah.
Imagine if Elon Musk started a school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Huh. Yeah.
Like a fast track to get a job at Tesla or something like
Yeah,
that.
literally just it's
SpaceX.
like it would start a factory town if you opened if you open a school there. It would effectively just be a factory town at that point.
Muskville.
Muskville.
Wait, there was like actually something like that. I forget what it was called. Not like, was it called like Fordlandia? Yeah, that's a real thing.
Fordlandia?
Fordlandia.
Really?
Oh,
It
Fordlandia.
was,
That sounds
yeah,
familiar.
look it up.
Oh.
It was, I think it was like somewhere in Brazil.
Oh yeah, that's right, in Aveiro, Brazil. Let's see. Yeah, it was intended to be basically because they needed like a source of cultivated rubber for tires, and that's why it was gonna support 10,000 people, but the project failed.
And also I think not too long after, they started using like artificially made rubber, so they didn't really need like rubber trees anymore. But
Wasn't Henry Ford had like a colony in Africa, didn't he? He was like into eugenics.
I mean, he was like
Henry Ford was an asshole.
he was like an actual like Nazi
dick.
sympathizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very anti-Semitic.
What book did Hitler get? The Eternal
what was
Jew?
it called? Was it that? I don't know. Well, the Eternal Jew, that's something different. But what was the book? Was it one? Are you talking about the one like Henry Ford like wrote the prologue to or something?
No, Hitler gave it to him.
What's it called?
It's a Henry Ford?
Yeah.
Let me look it up.
God damn.
Yeah, the International Jew.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
that's I think he wrote that actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, Hitler praised him for
Yeah,
it.
he wrote it. Yeah. Right. Basically, yeah, it was basically a newsletter he wrote. It was the Dearborn Independent, and basically like just like used that as like anti-Semitic tracts. Like literally like apparently it was translated into German, and believe let's see. Okay, here we go. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf. Hitler mentioned Henry Ford by saying, "Every year makes American Jews more and more the controlling master that produces in a nation of 120 million. Only a single great man, Ford, to their fury, still maintains full independance."
Yeah,
So that's what Hitler wrote about Henry Ford.
Not the kind of guy you want to be cited.
No. Wow.
Isn't the new president of Brazil, like one of his advisors says that global warming is a Marxist hoax.
That would surprise me.
Yeah, it's really far right.
Yeah. You know that Gab actually has a section, Gab Brazil?
Really?
Yeah.
I think there's also a section Gab India as well. I'm not even sure how the Gab India one started up. But apparently, like, that's going on. Yeah, like Gab Brazil, like, I'm just going to pull this up here. Most of these posts are probably going to be in
All right,
Portuguese.
should we call it the stream? I think
Yeah.
we're kind of just
Yeah, I think we are kind
Yeah.
of
going a little off the rails.
a little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Unscripted.
Yeah, we
Unfiltered.
unfiltered, uncensored, uncalled for. Am I right? Yeah, I mean we're basically just talking about like just going off the rails here, so might as well just conclude this edition of Radio Sheridan. Thanks for joining us.